His Excellency, the 72nd Governor of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe.
Well, thank you, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this town hall today. It is really, I believe, a huge opportunity for Virginia to move forward. As I've always said, I want to see Virginia lead this country. I want us to lead us out of this horrible COVID crisis that we've been in. And it's going to take a lot of big, bold ideas. And today I'm honored that we have our speaker with us, Speaker Eileen Fillercorn, the first woman speaker in 400 years. And if you didn't know it, a little bit of trivia, yesterday, May 13th, 414 years ago yesterday, is when the first settlers stepped foot on Jamestown, Virginia in 1607. So from that time, it took a long time, and now we have our first woman speaker, and she and her team have done an excellent job. We also have with us Gil Bland, who is one of Virginia's leading business leaders, always recognized, has always been out front on business issues about how to grow an economy, has had thousands of employees, owned Burger Kings and Pizza Huts all over the country, and he really has been a great leader. In fact, Gil and I last week were down in the Hampton Roads region talking about how we lift up small, medium, and other size businesses, how we lean in on the Black and brown businesses to really lift them up. So listen, we all know how tough COVID has been. It has impacted every part of Virginians' life, from the economy to education to healthcare and so much more. This, as bad as it's been, it does give us a huge opportunity, I think, to rebuild, to put new things in place so that we can lift everybody up. I've come out with a 130-page policy proposal to talk about all of these different issues and things that we need to do to build Virginia, to make it the best state, to build a world-class equitable education and economy that really lifts everybody up. It's an exciting time for us because, as I say, I mean, it's been hard on so many businesses. You think that 41% of the small Black and brown businesses have closed in America over the course of the last 12, 13 months. Think of that. 41% of the businesses have closed. So we need to do a lot more to lift them up, to bring in more equity, and to give everybody a shot. And that's why I'm running for governor, to lay out these big, bold plans. But folks, we cannot go back. We got to go forward. This state has made so much progress over the last 8 years. I remind all of you, when I took office, I inherited the largest deficit, $2.4 billion deficit from the Republicans. When Ralph and I walked into office 8 years ago, I had to lean in to stop their right-wing agenda of anti-women, anti-gay. As you all know, I had 120 record vetoes, stopped all of their attacks on women's reproductive rights, all of their attacks on our environment, trying to put more guns on the street. We stopped all that. And we worked hard to rebuild this economy that we have today, which is really doing great. And I was so excited. Governor Northam announced yesterday that our monthly revenue increase was the largest increase in the 21st century. I mean, think about that. Is that not exciting for where we are and what we need to do? But they now, on the other side, have they've got a Republican nominee. They have chosen their nominee. And what he has already said is going to risk everything that we have put forward over the last 8 years. It puts in risk the companies we want to recruit. Jobs will be lost. And you think about it, Glenn Youngkin, who just won their little drive-by convention, spent probably $10 to $20 million and got 7,000 votes. I like to say I almost had more votes when I ran for student body president at Bishop Ludden High School. 7,000 votes for that kind of money. I mean, are you kidding me? And guess what? He has only put out one plan in 5 months. And guess what that was? That was a Donald Trump plan on election integrity. So Donald Trump's handpicked right-wing candidate for Virginia governor has only one plan, and it's about election integrity. And it is those big lies that led to the insurrection on our Capitol, that deadly insurrection on January 6th. So any plans out there on education? Not one. Any plans out there on jobs? Not one. Any plans out there on healthcare? Not one. one policy, a make me Donald Trump like me policy, and that's it. And that's dangerous for us. And that's why we need to work hard. And we cannot go back. We will not let Glenn Youngkin, in his first speech as the nominee of the Republican Party, came out and attacked women's reproductive rights, wants to outlaw abortion in this state, and he wants to put more guns on the street. That was his big message, his first speech. Well, you know what, folks? We dealt with that before. We beat them. We're not going back. And we're going to go forward. And I'm very proud. I passed the first gun safety, working with Speaker Eileen Fillercorn, first gun safety bill in 24 years. And you know what? We now have the strongest domestic violence protection law in the United States of America. So there is a real contrast. We cannot risk our recovery on Glenn Youngkin and Donald Trump. We've got to move forward and continue open and welcoming, investing in cyber and data, workforce development, credentialing, apprenticeships. That's who we are. So that's what today's all about. I thank you for joining us. And let me open it up with our speaker and Gil Bland. So, Madam Speaker, you've heard me talk about where we were 8 years ago. You were there. We have rebuilt our economy, but it is under threat today because of COVID. And I'd like you to talk about where you think, as the leader of the House of Delegates, where do we need to go with this economy and how do we do that?
Thank you, Terry, and thank you so much for everything that you have done. We're so excited about what you've accomplished already and moving forward. You're right. You said so much in your opening. We've been able to do a lot as it relates to COVID-19 and this pandemic. How can we? I mean, this obviously is an unprecedented health crisis. But you know what? You mentioned this. It's also a painful economic crisis and the impact that it's had on so many Virginians, businesses. We saw what's happened over the past year. The public health crisis and our economy and how deeply interrelated it is. And, obviously, if people aren't healthy, then, they can't work. And, it's something that I believe the governor, Governor Northam and his administration, and the House and Senate all understood. And we took steps. We moved things forward. We did. We were able to protect Virginians. We passed legislation that accelerated the distribution of PPE. We protected first responders. We were able to keep small businesses open and providing Virginians access to the critical equipment, like masks that would enable them to stay safe. We created the Virginia Health Benefit Exchange to get even more Virginians access to quality, affordable health care, something you know so much about. We authorized Governor Northam to appropriate $97 million for PPE, $1.3 billion to assist localities on the front lines of providing essential services during the pandemic. We provided direct assistance to employers in the form of $70 million for small businesses assistance, and so much more. We're seeing that leadership and foresight pays off with the governor as well when he announced $2 billion revenue service. With your record, with what you've already accomplished, you're creating 200,000 jobs over the time as governor. I think that's the right number, Governor.
Yep, that's it.
Terry, that's why we need you. We need you to be our next governor. We need you to move forward with all that we've been able to accomplish so far as we come out and turn the corner on these crises. We need to continue economic momentum, and your plans to invest $2 billion in our schools, to continue to expand paid sick leave, make childcare more affordable. Those are the next steps that we need to take to ensure that as our economy continues to bounce back, we put in place policies that ensure all Virginians share in the recovery. That's what you're about. That's what you've done. And we're confident that's what you'll be able to do moving forward.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And Gil, let me ask you, because, you have businesses, you had them all over the country. You know what we've been through in Virginia and the battle we had. And I think, I did 35 trade missions to 5 continents. Mm-hmm. And I kept trying to tell our legislature, our right-wing extreme legislature, when you propose these bills and pass these bills against women, against gay rights, that really sends a message of that you're not wanted in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I know for you, with thousands of Burger Kings and Pizza Huts, you wanted an open and welcoming state because you wanted people to come in. Did it matter to you if someone was gay, they came into your Burger King and bought? So we got away from all that. But I think from your perspective as a business leader, this divisive of immediately coming out, attacking women, attacking gay rights, what's your feeling of how that affects the business community?
Well, you hit the nail right on the head. But first, let me say, Madam Speaker, thank you for all of the great work that that the legislature has done over the past year. You've made our lives a lot easier in a very difficult time. But to your question, Governor, you have the history. You've proven that you understand the needs of businesses, and because you're a businessman, you've been an entrepreneur, I think, since you were 1 year old, maybe 14, but
14. In fact, Gil, there's my truck at 14 years old, man.
I know you've been at it a long time. You understand what it means to write a paycheck, and your point is absolutely correct. Business is encompassing of everyone, and you know, when I speak about business, I want to particularly address something you said. 41% of Black businesses have failed. I mean, during the Great Depression, when we talked about numbers in the 20% range, 24, 25%, you know, those were monumental numbers. 41% is cataclysmic. And, you know, it takes a leader who understands business to address those kinds of systemic problems. And they are systemic in some instances, to correct that. And I know that you understand that. In particular, though, as it talks about inclusion, it's also the number of things that you've talked about in health, in education, in business financing. All of that contributes not only to building a healthy business climate, but also a workforce. And you know, Virginia currently is living on the ability to say we're the #1 state for business, but because of what you're talking about with healthcare and education and getting teachers and providing continued micro loans to small businesses, those are the kinds of things that will sustain and attract more businesses, as well as maintain a world-class workforce. Yeah. So I'm very grateful for your insight, and you know what you said, you use your power as governor to correct the inequities of the past.
And you mentioned
Terry.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I was just going to, you know, and obviously, you know, where our where we've been on anti-discrimination legislation. And this has been a top priority for us for so long. But when you think about what we were able to do these, you know, the past few sessions, it's so impressive. And we know that discrimination is wrong, not just, you know, for individuals, just for businesses. You know, discrimination is bad for business. And I think we've seen that. We've seen states across the country that have chosen a path of discrimination. And you know what? Not only is it wrong, it also costs them dearly economically. We know that. Companies do not want to be associated with that type of backward policies. And you have stood steadfast and strong in support of equity and equality. I am so proud of what we've been able to do, and to pass the type of bills, you know, the Virginia Values Act and so many more, that to pass anti-discrimination legislation that actually protects Virginians of all backgrounds. But our work is not finished. There is more we can do, and we must do. And you know what you were able to do as governor before, and you were able to stand up for the extreme right, you know, right-wing majorities. You were able to do that. Yeah. And we need to make sure that we move Virginia forward, not backwards. And with your leadership, I'm confident we'll be able to do so.
Well, I think also, Governor, you fully understand the demographic shifts that's already occurred and continuing to occur. I mean, Virginia probably is at least 33% Asian American, African American, and Latino American. This is who we are as a Commonwealth, and we need to be welcoming and inclusive and equitable in all of those practices. You've demonstrated that in your first term, and I know you'll continue that.
Well, you think about it, and everybody in Virginia should understand that you have to be open and welcoming if you're going to recruit what I call those jobs of the 21st century. And take a case in point, CoStar. CoStar was going to North Carolina, but they passed their HB2 anti-gay bill. Well, I picked up the phone when I saw that, and I called the CEO of CoStar. I didn't know him ahead of time, Andy, and said, you can't go to a state that discriminates. And we recruited them. Even though North Carolina offered more money, we got them here in Richmond, Virginia. And I think they're up to like 2,000 employees now. And I'm just telling you, people don't want to come to states. And so that right off the box, Glenn Trumpkin or Youngkin or whatever you want to call him, he comes right out and attacking women's rights and the guns. He's horrible on gay rights issues. We got to get past that. We have challenges rebuilding this economy that's equitable and lifts everybody up. And Gil, you mentioned Virginia, the best state, CNBC for business. And yet we're also ranked the 50th, the worst state for workers. That's why I say, let's get the minimum $15 up to 2024, paid sick leave, paid family medical leave. We've got to do and help our workers here in Virginia. You think of the home healthcare workers. They go to 5, 6, 7 houses a day. They clean bedpans. They take care of our loved ones. They're on buses all day. They're making $7.25 and they have no health benefits. Nobody in America should have to work 40 hours a week and live in poverty. It's just wrong. And I know, Eileen, you and I've spent a lot of time on this. Is going to be our big legislative where Youngkin wants to take us back. We are going to expand and help lift up workers. It's going to be a top priority for us next year.
Well, if you don't understand the healthcare needs, you don't understand workforce needs.
Yeah, that's right.
They're hand in glove.
Exactly.
You want to talk a little bit about the paid sick leave, family medical leave, and how you think the prospects are, Madam Speaker, to get us through the chamber next year?
Yeah, this has been a top priority for us for a long time, and we were able to move the ball forward. Not get as far as we would like, but I'm quite confident now that when we're with your leadership and as a result of what we have seen with these crises and the people that are affected, I really expect us to be able to be even more successful and move the ball forward, and certainly with your leadership. That's been a top priority and will continue to be, especially as people see what, the result and the impact that these crises have had on, I should say, not just Virginians, but Americans.
Yeah. And Gil, let's talk a second. We had a great roundtable down in Norfolk last Saturday. You brought in 30 or 40 leading Black business leaders, small business leaders. And we talked about the issues that really are affecting the Black community today. Number one, home ownership.
Yes.
We got to do a better job with access to capital. We got to do a better job stopping the discriminatory lending that actually goes on. But the whole issue, which is the access to capital. Well, why don't you talk a little bit about what you think we need to do here in Virginia to lift up Black Virginians?
Well, one of the things that the takeaways after the meeting, I stood there and talked with a number of the business leaders. And one of the most impressive things that you accomplished was your willingness to say that you're willing to use your voice to influence action. Not necessarily always legislative, not necessarily always executive orders, but your willingness to use the forum of being the chief executive officer of the Commonwealth. That's powerful, and it's also impactful.
Yeah.
Those things that are particularly needed are access to capital. I mean, for example, continuing the microloan fund for small businesses. You started that in your first term, it continues. Strengthening the Small Business Financing Authority for the state of Virginia, that they can provide loan enhancements, guarantees, and direct loans. All works. But I think one of the things you said, that you would also talk to financial institutions about minority hiring at the executive levels, some minority board members, those people who understand, friends in court, if you will, who understand the need for diversity and inclusion and racial equity. And I think all of those combined began to create a climate and a culture where, the private sector and public sector work together to build a stronger Commonwealth.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Eileen, we're looking at a huge amount of federal infusion of dollars. The state will get about $4 billion. Localities will get about $2.7 billion. K-12.
You said billion?
Billion, yeah.
Billion.
That's a lot of money.
And higher ed's going to get about 858 million, but 2.1 for K-12. So we have a lot of this federal funding that's going to be coming into Virginia over the course of the next 2 years. Talk a little bit about the process of, so we use this money to really do lifestyle changes to education and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, that's right, Gil. Billions. So the American Rescue Plan has already helped Virginia build back. And when you think about it in terms of providing direct relief for families, expanding vaccination infrastructure to get shots in the arms, and now we've gotten some information and back from the feds. We'll be spending some time in the Commonwealth of Virginia going through all that data. The House and Senate is working already as we speak to figure out how we can allocate the billions of dollars of additional stimulus that we will be receiving. That money is going to help us, as you mentioned, Governor, with to invest in schools and funding critical services that Virginians rely on, and also focusing, Gil, too, with businesses to help these small businesses get back on their feet. It's been a top priority of ours and will continue. And we're fortunate enough to be getting this relief, getting this money, the stimulus money that will really help, Virginians immediately. So we're looking forward to continuing that conversation. And again, Governor, you know what this is all about, Terry. You have done this, and and having you at the helm moving forward, there's no doubt in my mind that our economy will bounce back even better and stronger than it was before under your leadership.
Well, and you're right. It does. It is important to have a good working relationship with the federal government. It is really important to have a good working relationship with the President of the United States, and I'm proud to say I've been friends of Joe's for 40 years. He was great when I was governor, and he was vice president, our largest transportation loan in U.S. history, the money for our port. And here we got a Republican who, as I say, is running on the big lie with Donald Trump that Joe Biden was not rightfully elected, that it was stolen. And that's why he starts think about this. You're running for governor for 5 months. You have no plans, no policy proposals, except for election integrity. I mean, what is that? So I do think it's an important point, being able to pick up that phone and getting the Oval Office to say, no, we need this money here. We got to expand. I want to see a Section 1332 waiver for our healthcare plan so that we can have our own reinsurance. There's a lot of things that we actually need to get done with the federal government. And we do have the most military assets, largest naval base in the world. Pentagon, CAA, Quantico, and so forth. So you're right. We got a lot of work. It's an exciting time. I got more energy today than when I was born. I get, over time, I like a good wine, I get more seasoned, but I'm just excited that we can rebuild education. I mean, to think we're
Governor,
50 on average teacher pay as it compares to our average pay of our citizens is disgraceful. We're the 10th wealthiest state. We should never be 50th. Let's pay our teachers. Let's get those 40,000 kids pre-K. Let's get everybody online. That is the exciting thing we can do. Don't be trying to tear us down on abortion and talking about guns. No, let's talk about lifting people up and doing something that benefits them.
Governor, another thing you said last week in talking to fellow Black business owners that indirectly and frankly directly touches future workforce and future entrepreneurs. And you spoke of your desire to increase teachers across the Commonwealth, particularly minority teachers. And everyone in the room quickly understood the empathy that a minority teacher can bring to the classroom, that sparks that desire for learning and gives them the confidence to maybe try something they've not seen in their own neighborhood. And, we're very appreciative of hearing that because it speaks to inclusion, speaks to equity. It also speaks to future workforce and future training for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how important it is for a student to get in that classroom, the familiarity, comfort level, relationship. And today in Virginia, while 50% of our K-12 students are students of color, nearly 80% of our teachers are white. So we do have what I've put in my plan, the Lucy Sims Scholarship. Lucy Sims was born enslaved and then went down to Hampton to get her teaching degree, went back up to Harrisonburg and taught for like 40 years African-American children. So the Lucy Sims Scholarship, if you'll come teach in a high demand area, let it be in one of our STEM H areas or an area of need in a rural part of the state, in other parts of the state, Richmond or Petersburg or Norfolk, if you'll come help us do that for 5 years, we will pay your room, board, and tuition, at any HBCU or any college or university for that. And that will really help diversify, because we're down 1,000 teachers today in Virginia. Where do you think, Gil, those missing teachers are? They're in some of the hardest hit areas. So they have substitute teachers. That's not fair. And we got to fix that.
We've lost a year of learning. Yes.
Yeah, we've lost a year of learning. That's right. Anything else before we go? This has been very informative. Madam Speaker, anything else you want to close out?
I just wanted to thank you, Terry, for,
Yep.
even just putting out all the plans that you have, and, which is such a, substantive, real substantive plans, ideas. I mean, you've done it. You've done the job. You've been there. And, right where we are right now, it's challenging times. And, we're going to turn the corner. We are turning the corner. We will come back stronger. I am confident with your bold leadership. And we've made so much progress. There's so much that I'm proud of that we were able to accomplish. And thank you, Gil, for your kind comments in the beginning. We have moved Virginia forward and on so many fronts. And it was challenging time because, yes, we made a commitment that we were going to do X, Y, and Z. And we were going to focus on education and focus on workforce development and focus on transportation, but focus also on making Virginia equitable and more fair, and passing anti-discrimination legislation, gun violence prevention, all of those things. We moved Virginia forward, but we also now have to focus on how to come out of this, these crises, the economic crisis, the pandemic, the health crisis. So we've made incredible progress. We've come so far, we can't turn back now. There's just too much at stake. And the way we move forward is to ensure that you, Terry, are elected governor, and that we maintain our majority in the House and Senate. And I know, and I am confident we will do that. We are on the right side of these issues. And with your leadership, there's so much more we'll be able to do.
And Governor, your willingness as well as your confidence to speak truth to the issues needed in our minority communities is appreciated. I mean, to actually have a plan called Lift Up Black Virginians, that's impressive. And I know that my fellow entrepreneurs last week were surprised to learn that you had targeted that much time and research to the issues that impact minority business communities. So there's a lot of optimism in your next leadership.
Well, and as you know, Gil, small business is the backbone of our economy.
Indeed.
When you think that 41% of Black businesses have closed, it really is distressing. So let's fix it. So let's get in, let's empower. And I think what's important, as I say, is, you've got the Republican nominee who has been said the last 8 years have been run into the ditch. I think it was the ditch that Ralph and I got us out of. And let the economic numbers speak for himself. But, you can make these foolish statements. It's no different. Who's the first person who endorsed him when he got the nomination? Donald Trump. So we've learned about someone with no political experience, no government experience, coming into a job, spending millions of dollars to win 7,000 votes. That experiment did not work with Donald Trump as president. And it's not going to work with Glenn Youngkin as governor. We're bigger than that. We're better than that. We're about lifting people up, not creating culture wars. That's not who we are. And we're going to do it as a team. So I just want to thank all of you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Eileen. Thanks, Gil.
Take care.